Welcome back. I'm Kevin O'Keefe. Today, underage overachievers. Sapna Shah had a friend whose father was dealing with kidney failure. So Sapna decided to start her own research project. Her results were recently published in the Journal of Biologics and earned her a spot in the top 20 under 20. Here's Sapna at the awards ceremony trying to explain her research.
Sapna, we all want to know what a microencapsulated live yeast column bioreactor is in as simple terms as possible.
Okay, so microencapsulated live yeast cells are basically yeast cells with a capsule around them. They are coated, and that's all that is there to them. Bioreactor is basically replicating the human body outside of the human body. So in this case, it was a syringe and other materials that were put together to replicate a human body. That's pretty much it.
That's pretty much it, she said. Sounds simple enough. Did you take notes for that test on the way out the door? And what's your career goal?
I hope to become a medical doctor with being able to conduct my research on the side.
And one thing you learned this week from the experiences you've had with us?
I've learned that anybody can become a leader because all 20 of us come from such different avenues and different areas of study, and we all have been able to be so successful. So one thing I've learned basically is if you can dream it, you can do it.
And Sapna is joining me in the studio. Welcome to the show, Sapna. Explain to me, you just tried to explain it in that clip there, and you did a fine job. However, I'm wondering if you could explain it again to me, essentially what your research involved.
Okay, so we know that kidney failure affects millions of people in Canada, and my goal was to find an alternative treatment to kidney failure that would replace dialysis. And the reason dialysis needs to be replaced is because it's a very cumbersome procedure, it's very expensive, very costly, and it just requires a lot of people to be helping the patient. And I think that independence is a big factor that's important to the patients with kidney failure. And so I decided to research some potential microorganisms that are being potentially considered for replacing dialysis. And I wrote a review article which was published in the Journal of Biologics. And most of these microorganisms, though they had some pros, they also came with cons because they would alter the microbial flora of the intestine. So though they help reduce the toxins that result from kidney failure, they do other harms to the body. And yeast is an FDA-approved fungi, so it's safe for us to eat it. We consume it in our...
So this is yeast you find in bread and...
It's a different strain, but it's because it's engineered, but it's similar.
Same idea.
Yes, and I think it was a good alternative to it because basically for the reason that we eat it. And I decided to approach my professor with this project.
So let's back up a bit. So you were in high school at the time?
Yes, I had just finished grade 10 when I did my research. But
so who's the professor? How did you find this professor?
Well, I emailed and got in touch with many professors across Canada, mostly in Ontario and Quebec. And my professor's name is Dr. Prakash. He works at McGill University.
So how old are you at this point?
I was 15.
15 years old, and Dr. Prakash receives an email from a 15-year-old who's interested in doing research.
Yes.
And what does Dr. Prakash do? Are you crazy?
Well, yeah, a lot of professors, he was really supportive. He actually didn't say, are you crazy, unlike others, but he approached me and he said, what kind of project would you like to do? So I approached him with this idea about this using yeast to treat kidney failure, and he said, oh, okay, I've thought about that. I've thought about other microorganisms, and yeah, let's try that, you know. And I tried it. I went to his lab.
Now, where is this? Is it McGill?
It's at McGill, yes. So during the summer months, I went to his lab. I did research in vitro, so outside of the body. We conducted tests to see if the toxins in the plasma from a uremic rat, from a rat with kidney failure.
Okay.
So,
you may have to explain that.
Okay, sure. So,
dumb it down a bit, Sal.
Okay. So a rat was used because we obviously don't want to use human plasma at this point. So a rat had been induced with kidney failure, and we extracted the plasma from it. Okay. And so that plasma mimicked the plasma from a kidney failure patient, a human patient. And I used that plasma, and I passed it through yeast cells, microencapsulated yeast cells. So these yeast cells have a capsule around them. And I measured the concentration of the toxins before and after 4 hours.
So to see if the yeast was able to reduce the toxicity.
Exactly,
I'm
yes.
getting it.
That's good. And we analyzed these samples in a machine, and we saw that indeed the concentrations of urea, creatinine, calcium, phosphate did go down.
So it worked.
It did work. However, there was a little glitch. Ammonia we would expect to go down like the others. However, it increased. And I later found out that this is because when urea is degraded, ammonia is a byproduct that is created. So in order to combat this problem, which would be elevated levels of ammonia, we would have to use another bacteria in combination with the yeast and then administer this oral capsule.
You mentioned that it was published, your research, in this journal. What did that mean? What was significant about it being published?
Okay, well, what my research, initially before even going to the lab, I was, as I mentioned, researching other microorganisms that have been used. And I was doing a summary of what had been used, doing charts, pros, cons, why something didn't work. And I basically just wrote down what I had found from other research articles that had been published, and I put it all together in one article. And this is a source for future researchers to look at and see, okay, what is the pros and cons of each organism. And it was just really helpful to me because I would know where to go on with my research, and it taught me a lot about research methods and analysis and the whole process of doing a research project.
And did you ever at some point think, I don't know, it seems strange to ask you this, but maybe I'm not capable of this, maybe I'm too young?
For sure.
Oh, really? Because
you
come off very confident. And
oh, no, for sure. I had an enormous amount of trouble, because I was only 15, 16 at the time. And a lot of people were like, okay, she's in high school and she's using our machine, and they were kind of freaking out because, you know, these are PhD people, PhD students, and they have like enormous projects. These machines are enormously valuable to them because it's basically what they do every day.
Right.
And I was using them, kind of invading, you know, on their space. But they were very supportive. They taught me how to use their machines, and I didn't damage anything, luckily. And the whole idea of just living in Montreal, even though I had a lot of parental support, you know, it was daunting at the time, but I got used to it, and I really enjoyed what I was doing. So the struggles, I did overcome them with a lot of support from others.
What's the status now of your research?
So I did, as I mentioned, find that the concentrations of the toxins, uramic toxins, do go down. And our next step would be to do some clinical trials in vivo with patients with kidney failure. And that would be a collaborative project at McGill that I would have to go back and...
So it sounds like it was a success, a huge success. However, what happened to your friend's father?
He did pass away, unfortunately, last summer, and I think that gave me an extra push, motivated.
Really? It didn't discourage you?
No, actually, I felt more motivated, though it was very unfortunate. But we know that so many people other than my friend's father are experiencing this. I mean, I just witnessed one case, but, you know, every day someone is suffering from this illness. So I think it motivated me further to, you know, really do something and find a solution to dialysis.
Now, as if that isn't enough, all the research you're doing, you also do a lot of volunteer work on the side. Why is it important to you to also do this volunteer work?
Because research is very behind the scenes, and the results do come, though slowly, they do come. And I feel like I need to do something like that I can see the actions of immediately, the results of immediately. So I volunteer at Markham Stouffville Hospital.
And what do you do there?
I volunteer at their Dr. Bear program, which is a pre-administration program for young children who are going to experience surgery. So I give tours of the hospital, tell parents and children about what their child is going to experience during their surgery, side effects, and any common problems that they may experience after the surgery.
Some people would say that meeting people on a daily basis or a weekly basis can be very upsetting to see children who are ill. How does that affect you?
Well, most of these children, luckily, are experiencing minor surgery, but there are some others with more major surgery. And I think because they're children and they're so innocent and they have such a burst of energy that they bring into, it makes me feel like, oh wow, you know, it just gives me a certain boost of energy to do more things. And I think it motivates me. It really encourages me to, you know, help.
You also have raised over $20,000 for Free the Children.
Yes.
How did you raise over $20,000?
Well, it was just not me. It was a bunch of classmates and I who did it. And it was at Markham District High School, the high school I graduated from, where we held different events. We held a Free the Children holiday run, so a marathon sort of in the winter season. And we encouraged students from our school to sign up and from elementary schools around our area. And we also did a wake-a-thon at our school. And these two events in combination raised $21,000.
What's a wake-a-thon?
Where all students would stay up the entire night and they would collect pledges and do different fundraising projects on their own. And all of the money went to build 2 schools in Sierra Leone.
Why Sierra Leone?
Well, we chose that country because a lot of charities were helping other places, and some were involved in Sierra Leone as well. But we noticed that this Sierra Leone really needed a lot of help. And I felt that some of our classmates had actually been there, so we felt a personal connection to that.
You sort of alluded to it a bit with your research and other projects, but what do you plan to do in the future?
Well, I hope to become a doctor and do research on the side, because that's really important to me. And though that's a long journey from now, as I go through that journey, I'm sure that I would like to volunteer, continue my volunteering, continue research, and hopefully that'll see me to becoming a doctor.
And what's your ultimate goal? Where do you see your research? I mean, do you want to change the world, or what's your goal?
Well,
if anybody can, I suspect it could be you. But what's your goal?
I hope to go into medicine, but in terms of my research, I'd like to make sure that an oral therapy for kidney failure is implemented. So maybe within the next 5 or 10 years, it will be done so, and just even though if it won't replace dialysis, it'll reduce the need for patients with kidney failure to go through that procedure, because it's very cumbersome and it's so much hassle. So make the lives easier of those suffering from kidney failure.
Well, I wish you all the best of luck with your work.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
Well, up next, a teen motivates others to get involved.